Biju Cheriyath. She's a hasher, which means she loves walking out in the countryside and climbing hills and mountains as part of a trekking group as well. But apart from that, formally she has a bachelor's in fine arts and master's in fine art from the College of Fine Arts, Karnataka Chitrakala Parishad. She has had solo exhibitions as an artist and has participated in several group shows. Several of her paintings are with hotels, corporate and in private collections. With 28 years of work experience as a designer, she has worked for companies like Titan Industries, Hallmark, Kirloskar Oil Engines and BBL Innovations Private Limited. She has taught art and design as a faculty member at the graduate level at Vegan and Lay, Mahavir Jain and Taksha of Itina Studios. Currently, she conducts art workshops and creative workshops for schools, corporates, and NGOs. She likes to use her creativity in social causes and to raise awareness. She is managing the aesthetics and gardening of local parks, beautification of common spaces, and is an elected member of Ward 59 committee member in Bangalore. As an art therapist, she is trained as a family counselor from CPC Center for Psychology and Counseling, Dindigul. Also trained in art therapy as a member of the Council of Psychotherapy and Counseling. So that's a pretty decent introduction, but some of her other facets is that she's an extremely good cook and dessert maker, and not the least, her latest qualification is that she's excelling at singing, and those of you who want to see her singing might want to join our program on Saturday. Where, okay, so,
and if I may add, she has designed for the hash.
Yeah, so there are multiple things, and including in her presentation, she will point out something she did for the hash as well. Okay.
Logos, mugs.
Thank
you.
Thank you. That is such a elaborate introduction. Anyway, thank you so much.
Okay, so we will now go to the next thing. Biju, would you like to start the presentation? And maybe somewhere
there is that video I shared with you. Can we start with a very simple exercise, which is a kind of explanation of what is imagination, what is visualization, how to use our mind for something that does not have an end result per se, because that is something that doesn't get done a lot. We are always chased to do something which is already predetermined. We already know what we are going to do because it's already been done and it's going to be done again. Whereas if you see all around us, nature has no fixed agenda. And so are we. We are also part of that nature. And we need to do some things which come naturally. And creativity, art, and accessing your imagination is one of the most beautiful things. So this is a very short exercise. We'll just quickly go through the video and then I'll talk some more.
This is just a short exercise on how to just explore your imagination. You know, all of us, we never know where to start. And this is the simplest possible exercise on just allowing your creative self to flow. So just draw 3 lines. Don't think about it. Don't try to look at any other pictures. Don't try to remember. Just draw 3 lines. So I'm just drawing 3 lines. Now, once you've drawn the lines, don't worry, don't think, oh my gosh, what is this? Just allow your imagination to take over. Like, just look at it. Like, to me, I'm looking at my 3 lines and I think I can see a face over here, right? I think I can see a face. Or if I look at it like this, it looks like maybe a desert, like the sand dunes. Okay, let me look at it like this. It looks like a figure actually. And like this. I don't think so. I think I like the idea of the face. So I'm going to stay with the face and add whatever, I mean, I feel this is like hair. So I'm going to draw some more hair. And don't try to force yourself to do anything. Just go with what your hand is prompting you, because actually your hand is like the printer to the CPU is your brain. So, it's working and something it's telling you to do. So somehow I saw a face there. So let's stay with black and white now. Let's not. So I and yeah, I don't want to spoil that neck part, no? But here, what do I do? This looks like a curtain, I think. So I think the curtain would have some patterns. No, I'm not thinking, this is not Biju the artist, this is just me exploring, and I'm very soon going to kind of wonder why I did it, but right now I'm just enjoying myself. So that's a curtain, I think. So, give it a little bit of shading so that it looks like cloth. So then I think it's like a girl looking out of the window, right? Somehow, kind of, I feel very related to this girl now. Yeah, she's smiling, okay? So outside, I see leaves. I see a bird. Bird's head dead. Tail is there. You can do another bird here at the branch. The tail. Yeah, definitely, my tree has lots of birds. If I was coloring it, I think I would color it morning lights, morning colors, right? The forehead is too wide, so I added some fringe. Yeah, I like it.
So this was an example of doing something creative which does not originate from something that already exists. Now, I'd quickly like to explain to you that why do artists actually do art? And it's not always artists that do art. There are people who just do it because it just makes them happy. And why this urge? Why do we also have art enthusiasts? Why do people go to art galleries? What is that whole industry or this whole experience of art? Now, I'm not trying to make all of you all artists. So I just want each person here tomorrow to be able to enter an art gallery confidently, pick up a conversation with the artist if he or she is there, or just have a better experience of life by appreciating what is around us. So this small exercise was to show that sometimes our mind, what we call the imaginative part, which is actually scientifically proven to be our subconscious. So the majority of our brain is actually our subconscious. There's a very small percentage that actually follows or carries out instructions, which is our day-to-day existence. Most of us, whatever job we are doing, we could be scientists, we could be doctors, we can be teachers, whatever we are doing, that comes from just 9% of our brain capacity. The rest of the brain is just this amazing, vistas of knowledge, which is all there. Each of us have it. Now people believe that we have something called cell memory. So we might be remembering things from, our ancestors. Now, all of this, how do we access it? So the one sure way we have of accessing this is art. And that is why art as an industry, it can be a very big industry. I'll go through some of the paintings later. And so creativity, art and design. So why do people do this, at the cost of anything? We have Vincent van Gogh on one side, who did not sell a single painting in his lifetime, but he just kept painting and storing those paintings in a room. And his brother, who had just a clerical job, would send money every month so that he could continue painting, to the extent that he became so obsessed with it that when he realized he couldn't paint anymore, or he didn't want to be a burden to his brother, he goes out and shoots himself. If any of you all have seen that movie, Loving Vincent, it's so beautiful. It really brings together, like Ruskin Bond says, the heart, the mind, and the hand. Ruskin Bond says art is the only activity where all three are connected. And that's what it is being human. You look at animals and birds around us, they're not always rushing. They're not always, trying to achieve or target something. They are actually, yes, once they're fed or taken care of their young ones or whatever, chasing after some flirtation, some other bird or dog or animal or whatever, they actually just sit and kind of just saturate what is around them. Art is one place that we can do it without being made to feel that, we're complete losers, to tell you quite frankly. Because if you just sit and dream, immediately somebody in my house, because I don't come from a background of artists. I come from engineers, doctors, teachers, anybody, but not artists. And the minute you sit and dream, they're like, why are you sitting there? Go study, go out and get some fresh air. Go do this, go do that. So an artist's life or a creative kind of mindset is not really appreciated in our fast-paced rat race kind of life. But art actually allows you this. You don't have to be the artist, and you can be an art appreciator. I had a student once, a French student, who was also in advertising, so we really connected. She had a membership or a pass to go and visit the Louvre for an entire year, and she lives in Paris. She's French. And though I was her teacher, it ended up that I was learning from her, because she had seen these masterpieces, and she would tell me about artists, especially female artists. There's a real dearth of female artists who have really made it in the global scenario. But actually she knew about them, and she would tell me. So there are artists, there are art appreciators, and then there is the art industry. So what is the art industry? These are people who make money out of art. Now, if M.F. Hussain sold a painting for 1 crore, somebody who was the middleman or the art gallery or the gallery owner made a lot of money. So they would promote the artist. So all of this happens, and it's all sustaining one industry, which, if you think of it like very practically, what is it? So I want you all to look at this photograph. This is a photo I took at a place called Ragi Halli with some of my birding friends. And I want everyone who's looking at this to feel, first of all, just look at it and try to come to some sort of feeling in your body when you see it. There are colors, there are certain objects there, there's some plants. What is that feeling? What do you see? What do you feel? And I want everyone to come up with one descriptive word. Can you all unmute yourselves and come up with one descriptive word?
Yeah, you can unmute yourself.
Gora.
I've said serene.
Serene. Okay, beautiful.
I think we have the same words because also Chandra said serene. For me, it's also serene, the first word that came.
Calm.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Serene.
Calmness.
Okay. Calmness. Okay. Okay. I want to tell you all something more. What you're seeing in front is actually a dolmen. You know what dolmens are?
Yeah. Old
By the stone.
bodies are.
Yeah. It probably goes back thousands of years. Those were the stones under which dead bodies were kept. And this dolmen has kind of, sorry? Serene, I see serene, Mauli. Anybody else wants to venture into a slightly more, little more in depth?
Obstacles before peace.
Sorry?
Obstacle before peace.
Obstacle before peace. Very interesting, because you have something right in front of you which is hard, immovable, and then beyond that you see these beautiful, very positive colors. Fantastic. Anybody else?
Nature's brilliance.
Nature's brilliance. Okay. Okay, so let's not spend more time. We'll go to more examples like this. I just want you all to observe what has happened to you all. When you see anything beautiful, first of all, you actually look at it, but there is also something that you do more than look. You actually have an experience, which starts with the seeing. Then there is, of course, smell, and then you have a feeling. So from a photograph, you have a certain vistas that opens up in your mind. It's not anymore about the photograph. It is your life's experiences, books you've read, stories you've heard from the time you were a child that actually starts somewhere on the edge of your brain, starts giving you stimulants to think, Arey, where did I see something like this? And for each one, it's different. I just selected this photo because I like it a lot. Each of you will have some experiences which will come up when you see something. And this happens all the time. You could be driving, looking out and looking at a tree. You might be stopped at a traffic light. You might be standing on your balcony and just hear a conversation on the street. It can be anything. If you stay with that, if you can see it, I mean, really look, then understand what does that make me feel, and then come to some sort of personal experience of that. That adds really a lot of value to being a creatively, experiential person. So the next slide is by an artist who was not trained as an artist. And it has, I feel, been a real challenge for her to be a selling artist. And she sells all her art online. So on one side, we have a photograph. Yes, I know I'm seeing a sunrise. I know there is a dolmen or some broken rock, something. Here, you can't see anything. You know, I have a friend who's also an artist, and he makes these, abstract paintings. So one day I was like, what exactly are you trying to show me? And he said, abstract art is like a child crying. Only the mother will know why the child is crying, or the caregiver. So abstract art is like that, but each of us have in us something that is calling out to be heard. And her name is Laurie Mirabelli. Laurie Mirabelli, she's Canadian. She was in a completely different field. I don't know what her job was, something very practical. She was earning well. And one fine day, she decided she wanted to paint. And today she sells. This painting is called Neomai. Me Oh My or something like that. I've written the name down there, I can't see it.
Yeah, me or my.
Me Oh My, yes. This is the name. And this painting sells for $1,400. And she
Oh my,
sells
oh
like
my.
hot cakes. Yes, Me Oh My, exactly. So there are artists who have given up stable jobs, got into it, and there are people who appreciate something they can't understand because it makes them feel. I can somehow see all of those things, what we saw in the earlier photograph in this painting, along with a lot of buildings and people also.
Yeah,
So
it
this
looks like
is-
Dharavi.
It could be, yes. See, each of us, when we take off this mantle of so-called logic, which has only trained us to do something which has already been done many times and extensively, we are at some point, our brain wants a break. It wants to say what it personally has to say, what it has collected information, data. We're all walking encyclopedias, and probably from many generations. When are we going to hear that, bring out those experiences? Of course, dance, music, you name it, all of it gives you that experience, but only art, visual art, you can do it quietly, you can do it by yourself, and it actually opens up vistas of experiences which otherwise is all blocked, because in the foreground, we always have a logical brain. If any of you all, I don't want to go too much into technicalities, but actually our, the forebrain is what actually takes care of all our day-to-day practical information. So our brains are into three categories. One is the artist, one is the warrior, and one is the judge. This is all scientific. And the artist, of course, like Pablo Picasso says, every child is born an artist, but retaining that creativity in adulthood is the challenge. So what happens? From beginning, we are programmed, okay, do this, do this, do this. So comes the warrior, execute. Judge, why are you doing this? Is this going to make enough money? But, as part of nature, being organic and wanting to experience life fully, we need to explore this kind of avenues as creative people, to explore more of our own experiences, to bring it out, to see things in a new way. Next slide, Avnash.
I feel there are a lot of clothes hanging in a Dhobi Ghat.
Very practical. Is that Molly?
Yeah. If you're looking at from probably ITI on that Hosmat Road and the Dhobi Ghat is on your right, I will just probably see this,
I'm seeing a lot of musical notes now. I feel like there's musical notes floating.
I see people, I see a heart.
I see a lot of chaddis.
Hey Bhagwan.
No bananas, Gora.
No, I see a bridge there, no, in Paris. There is lock and key.
All,
Yeah.
there for covering the bananas anyway. Okay.
Okay, so now I'm going to complete realism. So we're talking about the Renaissance. This was the starting of the countries, but in Italy, when the Renaissance took place, Renaissance was not just about painting. You could be a person who made a shield or a chariot or a house. That particular time in history, 15th century, was when the benchmark for the whole world was set. And here you have Leonardo da Vinci, and I took him as an example because this guy was a troublemaker. He would do things just to aggravate people. If you see his history, he was actually an illegitimate child of a very well-known and very rich nobleman, but never got accepted as his son. And by the age of 14, he had his own studio. By the time he was 18, he was getting independent commissions. And you must remember then there was no such thing as promotions, or there were no art galleries, nothing. He probably started as apprenticed with some other artist. And that artist wouldn't have wanted him to learn any of his tricks of the trade, because then he would have lost business. It's a very competitive world. And you find Leonardo da Vinci, and I'm showing you this one painting because this is one of his smallest works. And it took him 24 years to finish this painting. And he was such a notorious guy that even though he was just an artist, he was thrown out of his country. He was thrown out of Italy and he got refuge in France. He was invited by the French king. And that also he made sure because he started designing weapons. So here you find another kind of artist, who is so set on being successful. But this one painting he carried with him when he left Milan. And after 24 years only did he actually show this painting. And because this painting was stolen from the Louvre, it became very talked about. Art historians and journalists and people have always tried to find out something more about this painting. There's everything from, it is a self-portrait of Leonardo da Vinci, that he's gay, so he painted himself as a woman, and but actually it was actually a portrait commissioned by a merchant. And this whole study of why the Mona Lisa is so evocative and why is it hidden so much, under UV lights, and I think probably we don't even see it very well in the Louvre, is because there are certain techniques he has used to make it seem that actually Mona Lisa is turning in a static visual. You feel that she's turning and she's just beginning to smile at you. And if you see the background, you can see that. So this is something that those of you who are interested in maybe, pursuing more of artistic ventures, or even wanting to just see paintings, a painting is always read like a book. You start from the left and you allow your eyes to wander. So if you start from the left, you can see that the background is very different from the right. Even the level of the ground is different. So these are all very interesting things that in those days, an artist, if he had to sell, he had to do lots of scientific research. He had to explore a lot of techniques because he had to grab the viewer's attention instantly. He couldn't just hope that somebody would like him and buy it. So just imagine. So this is what the Renaissance did. It kind of studied everything into the micro and into the macro, which is very much needed to really appreciate art and explore our experiences of what we are seeing. Next slide.
Okay.
So now you have this famous painting, which is called Starry, Starry Nights by Vincent van Gogh. And this actually has a story behind it. He was actually in an asylum when he saw this through his window and painted it. But his followers and his fans, 150 years later, made an entire movie on Vincent van Gogh and his life and made a song on this painting. This painting was sold for millions, I think some 100 and something millions. But this painting has got such a positive overtone, though it was painted by a very sick man who was called by the whole world as crazy. So does anyone want to apply the principle of looking from left to right and understanding a little more about this painting? Anyone wants to put, just do that experiment, like start from the left. So earlier also somebody said, you're seeing the rock, you're seeing the difficulties, and then you're seeing the positive things. Right. So here also you see something on the left, which is probably a tree, but it has a very ominous look. It has like if I was in the night and I saw a tree like that, I would be pretty scared. It's kind of weaving and there's a wind blowing, so it's kind of moving. And I can just imagine the sounds of it, the branches rubbing against each other. But on the other side, you see this sleepy town, you see a steeple of a church, and you see an entire vistas, which makes you want to just stand there and look at it. And the takeaway is so positive.
It's a
Anyone
nice,
has any experience of this? I mean, having seen the movie, or have you heard the song? Has anyone heard the song Starry, Starry Nights?
no, but I feel that the winds are blowing, the clouds are forming out there, the blue skies, the sun on one side.
There's a crescent
it also,
on the right.
it also seems that it's going to drizzle, it's going to rain. There is sun, there is rain, and soon there is going to be rainbow. So
I can feel stars and galaxies there.
Yeah, it's actually a night scene, Jay. It's a night scene. It's a Starry, Starry Night, it's called.
yes, yes.
But yes, you're right about that moist feeling. It's not a dry feeling. It's like
So,
a hill station kind of, right?
Right, right. And there is this moon. I don't know, maybe this is a moon, but
Yes,
it
that is a
appears
moon on
like
the
a-
right side.
Yeah, correct. It appears like appears so
Yes,
bright and
it-
yellow
right.
like a sun.
Yeah. But that's the positive feel, right? You don't feel
Absolutely.
this is painted by a
Absolutely.
man who's mentally ill, but you also see there's so much of movement. And the
The whole
movement is
thing
all
is moving.
and your eyes don't go out of the picture. It actually starts from the left and then it takes you back into the image, into that little town. And, I could just imagine wandering around there. I mean,
When you talk about him being mentally ill, you feel the turmoil. Maybe
Yes.
that turmoil is actually kind of
Yes.
depicted here in those circles. So,
Absolutely.
Like a cyclone.
And somewhere we feel for him. That's what happened when his fans made a movie on him. 100 artists painted oil paintings to make a movie that was 1.5 hours. And if anyone has seen that movie, you will feel, okay, the next picture I think is that, Avinash, can we see the next picture? Yeah, so this is one of the scenes in the movie. And in animation, it's a complete animation. You will, after some time, you forget that you're looking at paintings. He actually turns, the name of the movie is Loving Vincent. And he actually turns, and this entire animation, I don't know if anyone knows about animation, per minute, per second, it's 26 frames.
per second. Yes.
Per second, 26 frames. That means 26 paintings had to be done to show him turn 1 second. So you imagine it took more than 1 second, because I saw the movie some 4 times. So you imagine how many paintings had to be done, and just look at that look in his eyes. And that is the kind of dedication and kind of experience that these people had by seeing just his works 150 years later. Can we go to the next slide? So this whole concept of this right brain, left brain. So scientifically, it's proven that there is no such thing. Now, if you are a person who's good at languages, you don't necessarily have to be an artist. You have to use a lot of your right brain thinking. But there is no such thing as segregation. And it's a personal choice from childhood. What is the kind of, programming that has gone into our brains that decides whether you use your logical thought process or your creative thought process. And ideally, to have a complete experience of life, you must have both. That is what has proven. Now you see Steve Jobs. He, I think, is one of the most creative people. And he says that ideating or creative thinking is joining the dots. What he did, nobody has actually achieved, in the so-called industry. And he says the more inputs you have, the more things you see, the more things you experience, the more dots you can join. So that gives you many more opportunities or more options to be creative. And so it's not that you're born that way. So again, I go back, about every child being an artist and this artist always being in us. It's just that we clam up that part. And at some point in life, we actually feel that emptiness. We feel something is missing because our maximum brain is not able to express itself. Next slide. So this is a very beautiful experience I had. I don't know how many of you all have heard of the Binale that happens in Fort Kochi. The Binale is again like the Renaissance that happens once a year in in Venice. It happens in Venice once a year, and just the entry ticket itself is like, I think some 200 euros or something like that. And you have the Binale for architecture, for apparently even for horology. Horology is watch industry. So art is of course the most a popular thing there. And now in Kerala, in Fort Kochi, we have a Binale, which is meeting the same standards, but it's on a different level because it's more a kind of artists, the best artists from the world are invited to do this. And it's actually a voice for the voiceless kind of thing. So one morning I go onto the beach and I see a herd of elephants. I was like flummoxed. I just had no idea what I was looking at. And the day before it was not there, because in Fort Kochi, if any of you all have been there, there's a very long beach, very nice beach. And one morning there are these elephants. And actually, this was actually an awareness drive. One is for poaching against elephants and torture of elephants. And the other one is for lantana. I don't know if you all know that most of our forests are being choked by a plant called lantana. It was brought, it's not indigenous, it was brought from outside, and it chokes the forest, and the natural, the indigenous plants are getting killed. So animals don't get fodder, and it's a big problem. So these elephants are made with that lantana. If you look at it, it actually looks like cane. And it was, each elephant is made exactly in the likeness of one elephant somewhere in the forest. So it's made by the tribals. So there's these artists. One of them is from NID, one is from some other art college. I think one of them is from Srishti also, if I'm not mistaken. So brothers and then another few artists, they got together and they had this idea of making these elephants with this lantana, training the tribals, and carrying these elephants. Actually, after the Binale, it actually traveled to the US. They're completely dismantleable. They're actually the size of elephants. I don't think you all can make out in this because there's no scale of a human scale there, but actually it is the size of a real elephant. And of course, various sizes and shapes of elephants. And they can all be dismantled, and it's sent by cargo to US after this. So how creativity, how art can be such a fantastic experience. It can inspire people, it can tell stories, it can take us all around the world without actually moving from where we are. Next slide. So what is this creative thinking? So now that we have realized that we are walking encyclopedias and our brains have a lot more to say than just following out instructions which we've been trained to do, which is probably the educational system, which I feel is not really very efficient. If you talk about the Gurukul system, which was actually the culture of our country, we learned to understand life, not a textbook, not just by heart something and then, bring out answers which was acceptable by a textbook. It was understanding much more. So that system has been choked. And today you have a lot of people who are very efficient, successful. I had a student who was doing extremely well in the software industry. She used to say that to just go back to her office, she had to go and stand in the ATM and look at her bank balance. And only then did she want to go back to office because she thought, okay, I can earn some more money. And she came as an art student to me. So, and it's not like she wanted to be an artist. She just wanted something where she could express herself, feel connected with who she really was. So creative thinking is basically getting ideas. How do you generate those ideas? Like Steve Jobs said, connecting the dots. What are the dots that you're going to connect? What is it that you want to see, or what is it that you want to experience? Or start with your own story. And one of the new, developments is not just IQ, you have EQ. Corporates are following this now. Emotional quotient. And when you follow your intuition, you express it with your own memories. That is imagination and visualization. And the more you allow your mind to do this, the more you feel relaxed. Your brain feels that it's not completely saturated with following commands. It feels that it can express itself, and that is so liberating. That's why art and creativity is given so much of importance. And I want to share one more story with you of Rabindranath Tagore and Mahatma Gandhi. They were very good friends, and this is a fact. And I saw this play called The Poet and the Prophet. It's a play where the entire play is just letters which were sent by Rabindranath Tagore and Mahatma Gandhi were read out. And it shows what a contradiction they were as people, even though they were very dear friends. When Shanti Niketan was going to be inaugurated, Rabindranath Tagore again writes to Mahatma Gandhi and says, see, you're going to get the independence for our country. But once we have independence, what are we going to do with that? How are we going to have visionary people to lead the country forward? Who is going to decide? I think all of us are literally exasperated sometimes when we go out on the streets. You know, the civic management just has no vision. We just wonder, why are, I don't know, 2,000 trees being cut? Isn't there any other way of doing it? First the trees are cut, then they decide whether the flyover should be built or not. I have seen trees cut and then there's no flyover. So these kind of things, and I don't mean just saving ecology, I mean simple, practical, common sense, when there is vision. And Rabindranath Tagore started that school and college only for that. He said, we need people in the future to visualize, to see visions that will take the entire nation forward and not just follow instructions. So there's a real dearth, and now we have a lot of design schools and colleges in the country, but not many of them are really, you know, going into these fields that are more needed. They probably go into automobile design or washing machine design, or like I did for a long time, some company, you know. So we need people who have vision, and that's something that I hope for in the future. Next slide. So seeing and sight versus looking and visualization. I think we've been through this, but one important chunk of this is color psychology. So starting from the first picture that you saw, what was that feeling of positive? You know, it was those colors. Humanity has survived and come to today because we were able to be sensitive to colors and textures. The nomadic life of humans, we were just nomads. We went from walking from cave to cave. And how did we survive? Because you could see the storm coming, because you saw the color of the sky and you knew, okay, the storm is coming, and then run for shelter. We didn't have WhatsApp, we didn't have television, and we definitely didn't have a weather reporter. There's a very funny thing about how they say weather reporters are little boys who told lies and they grew up to become weather reporters. So if it says it's going to rain, it's not going to rain. If they say it's no rain, then definitely it will rain. So in those days, how did the cavemen survive? Even then there was art. We have cave paintings, which actually documents the life of these people. There were artists who were given that job. They found that out. You know, scientists and researchers have found out all these things actually happened, and humanity survived with just a very sensitive understanding of color and texture. Now, this color and texture is being used by the industry. Advertising, which package you pick up, which product you buy. They have studied this color psychology and use it in such a way that people respond to certain products and buy that product. But we as human beings have become a little desensitized to it, because we are always looking for media to show us what to do, or which is the better one, or, you know, which is more prevalent. So this whole thing of sensitivity to color is actually all around us. And what does color say can again be can be a little subjective and not so objective when we are talking about our life experiences. So as a child, if we had a bad experience and we saw a certain color, then we will react negatively to that color. But per se, each color actually tells a story, and an artist expresses him or herself with colors and textures. Next slide, please. Touch and olfactory. Another one is smell. A smell can take you back decades. A smell can make you leave the place. Human beings actually give out a smell. Apparently, even if you're attracted to somebody, it's because of a subtle smell. It's not a perfume. It's apparently a smell that comes out of that person. And definitely we know animals survive on that. So even dogs, you'll know that some dogs will bark or chase some people, but otherwise it's pretty peaceful on its own. So something, what is that? You know, you even say you can smell fear. What is that smell? You know, so these are all our 5 senses, which we need to harness. We need to explore what it is and actually get an experience of it to become more creative. And all of this actually plays a very important role in our emotions, which bottom line is who we are, how we feel. What is happiness? Do I feel happy? Do I feel content? Do I feel like I want to get up in the morning and, you know, do whatever I do? These are all like bottle caps, you know, and art and creativity can actually open these bottle caps and bring out that fizz, like the champagne. Okay, next slide. So we have virtual media, we have information overload. Now, this is another problem that I know young and old face. We think we are doing the sensible thing. We are being logical. We read all the newspapers. I used to follow the COVID, you know, the numbers in WHO website, like I would follow a share market. And I actually started feeling symptoms last year. This is called information overload. Our brain, that 9%, which is maximum, for some people it might be 4 or 6%. For me, I'm sure it's only 4%. It actually is so involved in grabbing all this unnecessary information that we completely block off the maximum amount of our knowledge, which I told you from the beginning. Like, we are encyclopedias. We have all these experiences. We have all this knowledge, which is all getting choked, because this entry point is being blocked with all of this information overload. And today, what we call the information era, you know, our young people, they think they know it all, but do they? Do we have more cases of depression, suicide, whatnot? Because the actual experience is not there. It is logically given to them in a certain way, so they accept it. But this is all a burden that everyone carries around. You have social media, that is another burden. I also love to go on Facebook and post pictures, but post that I forget. Whereas for people that have who follow that and then, you know, manipulate it and then it's a full-time job. Like I told you about that Lori Mirabelli, the artist. She says she spends in a day at least 6 to 8 hours following up on social media so that she can sell her paintings. It is an industry, but it's also affecting the way we make our lives. Next slide, please. So what can we do to kind of trigger this creativity? So I showed you a simple exercise in the beginning. It's fun. It doesn't matter if you don't like it, throw it in the dustbin. Nobody needs to hear or see it, but it actually gives you like a refresh button to your brain, because for some time, this warrior and this judge brain is shut up, and the creative artist, who's pretty sensitive but knows a lot more, because he or she is seeing so much more, experiencing so much more, and storing all that information. So we need to give that chance. So allow yourself a creative exercise every day. It doesn't have to be to show anybody. Keep a journal, you know, I don't know, take pictures with your phone, do a rangoli, cook. I love cooking. Abnash knows, I think it's the most creative thing. When I just don't feel like painting, I cook something. Today also, if I start telling you about what I cook, you all will tell me to shut up. But I love cooking because that's one creative expression where you can actually allow what you want to do. Like, of course, I'm not saying following recipes and all that, like, just being experimental, seeing what's in your fridge, chucking it together, having fun. And then, of course, somebody else has to say it's very nice. So that's also creative. Just do one creative thing in a day. Just go for a walk. And instead of looking at your feet and at your phone, just look up at the trees. Just look right now. If you go out, the leaves have all got these raindrops on it. It's so fresh. I mean, we're so lucky to be in Bangalore. Just be grateful for that. Just experience that. I think that's what our brains want to do sometimes. Wonder. How many of us just wonder? I mean, of course, like I told you, when I was a kid, I was always told, why are you just sitting there? Come and sit here. Why are you not talking? Why are you reading so many books? I guess I was born an artist, so that's how I was. But sometimes we need to force ourselves to wonder about things. And I don't mean reminiscent just about the past. I kind of avoid that. Wonder about, I don't know, Harry Potter. Why did Harry Potter become so successful as a book? Because it gave you an opportunity to wonder. You actually let your brain visualize those corridors and those halls and what they did and the snitch. And, you could actually see all of that happening. I think the movie was not as good as reading the book. People, adults I know who have the entire series of Harry Potter, because that was a way of wondering. And sometimes we need a roadmap. We can't just wander on our own. So art, again, okay, I'm not trying to sell art, but it's a fact. Keep an open mind. So don't go into the art gallery or don't walk in anywhere with a closed mind thinking, oh, I know it all. And now I have this much time. I'm going to walk in and walk out. Yes, of course, we all have time constraints. We all have practical things to do. But like I told you about that French lady who had a pass to the Louvre for 365 days and she lives in Paris. She's French. Do something for yourself. Keep an open mind. Go and look at a painting and wonder. What is that artist trying to say? Go online, try to research about the artist. It's so interesting if you get into the history. That's another thing I wanted to tell you all about, that it's not always just being an artist. There are three things. One is the artist. One is the art appreciator. That is the viewer. If there are no art appreciators, believe me, artists like us will die. We need somebody to see our paintings. And of course, there's the business of art. And there are different walks of art. So one of the things is, of course, painting, visual art. Then you have art history and art critics. This is also a study. So art historians actually study paintings, like I told you, the Mona Lisa. So many art historians have studied the Mona Lisa. Until today, it is still not decided. They're all arguing about it, and I don't think that conversation will ever end. But it's so interesting. You can wonder what happened. Why did he leave Milan only with that painting? He didn't take the other paintings. He could have taken it. And why did it take him 24 years to finish painting? So this is all, keep an open mind, wonder. If, like now that Lori Mirabelli, maybe that's not the kind of painting you look at every other day, but why not? Try to just keep an open mind and see what more you can see, even if it's just clotheslines, like Molly said. Why not? I think, that Dhobi Ghats are something. There was an entire movie called Dhobi Ghat. I thought it was fantastic. Visit art galleries and cultural centers. We have a National Gallery of Modern Art in Bangalore. And I'm sure, like in Bombay, you have so many galleries. Your Delhi, so don't worry, plenty. Post-pandemic, of course. Please use these opportunities.
Okay.
Give yourself.
Okay, Biju, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we need to do a time check. We have a time stop at about 7:30 or so. So give some time to people to even ask some questions.
Yes. So we can quickly go through this. See movies of different languages. This is also a trigger. I recently saw a Marathi movie called Cycle. I love cycling. But then when I saw that movie, I completely related with it, and it's Marathi. I know a smattering of Marathi from my time in Pune. Record your experiences. Start from today. Read regularly. Don't say, because see, if we really want to do something, we'll find that time. Fiction, poetry. Look and observe. Don't just see. Think positive. Breathe. lot of problems can be solved by breathing. Next, I think we can just forward it, I think. So my personal journey as an artist, I was not born and just kind of guided into this. I practically clawed my way into art. And even when I went into art college, my principal, because I was getting awards, wanted me to be a painter. And I was like, who will pay for my canvas? You know, so I got into commercial field. I got into Titan watches. I did the practical thing, but somewhere I'm a person who sat on the wall. I couldn't completely leave art for art's sake. And because I come from such a practical background, I've always wanted to use art to improve something. And that's why I become very irritating, because I'll never accept anything for what it is. I'll always say, no, is there a better way? No, but why does it have to be like that? Okay, next, Avnash. So I have worked with a lot of people. I've worked with companies like Cisco. I've worked with schools like National Public School. That's also some company. So basically, I want people to get this experience. Sometimes they're CSR programs. Sometimes they kind of chug it into the, one of those corporate things. But the experiences that people have by just doing something without a fear of failure is so amazing. I've actually had grown men cry. I mean, and I'm not exaggerating. Next slide. So I think art is a bit like this, this actually exists. It's, this pettikada we say in Malayalam. But during the pandemic, it's obviously not being used, and you have these trees all growing around it. And I call this painting a portrait. I don't know. Can anyone see a portrait here? Okay, next slide. So again, my pet project is rocks. I know. I feel rocks and rocky places have got some sort of experiential quality, and so many of them are being, quarried, and it's really sad. I mean, all over the world, we give more significance to certain geological places. In India, we don't have a single such place. So any which way, you don't know from today to tomorrow. So I try to capture it through my paintings. Next slide. So my project is called Thoughts and Textures. It's all about a feeling that you can harness, or, I don't know. I do a lot of trekking. I'm sure a lot of you all feel that when you're in the mountains, there's something, I'm trying to capture that. I don't know how successful I'll be. Next. So this is again one of my why not ventures. So there was a park that was dying in my area. I stay in Cooktown, Bangalore. And I said, no, it should not die. So basically got it working, and we had such amazing experiences there. One man, I think he was a Bengali, he came and told me, madam, do you know, first time, and he must have been at least 70 years old. He told me, madam, first time I'm coming to a place which is not either a political rally or a religious function. I thought that kind of made my life. Of course, it doesn't happen anymore, but it was a very, and I think it was covered by the media a lot. And now you have a lot of it happening. Next slide. Thank you. So I hope I have made you all interested in doing something for yourself creatively. It can be sing also. I'm doing a lot of singing and scaring everybody. But please explore what your mind has to say. Listen to it. And it's all there. The hints are there around us. Nature is the best artist. You will never see the same sunrise. You will never see a tree that is identical, even if it's of the same species. You'll never see behaviors in nature which are repetitive. And here we get into this comfort zone, bracket ourselves. What is this thinking out of the box? One of my gurus is Edward de Bono. If you are interested in creative thinking and how to originate your thinking from all your faculties, read his book, Six Thinking Hats. And please share with me your experiences. I would love to hear from you all. And right now, if there are any questions, I would love to answer your questions, or at least understand what you all are thinking. I see some questions in the chat.
Yeah, so people who want to ask questions can just unmute themselves and ask Biju.
Oh, I'm finding.
What's the story behind the petticoat? I don't know. I'm just stuck on that. I thought it
Yes.
was beautiful.
So I've been pretty naughty. I've been going out during the first lockdown to Banarghatta. And there's a lake in Banarghatta, which I only go with a friend who is also, we are very careful, you know, keep all social distance and all that. And I saw this pettikada, and that was the time when we were all trying to ponder on what is this, you know. So it kind of gets all philosophical and boring, but still I saw a face there. I saw a face of a human being, or, you know, a so-called logical life, just being engulfed by that nature around it. There's a lantana plant also in that, you know. I don't know. I mean, I would rather know what y'all have to say about it, because for me, I just do things because I feel like doing it. I love to hear what people have to say, because that makes me understand why I did it, you know.
I like imperfection. I don't like perfect things. So for me, that was like really very, you know, intriguing.
Very interesting. Art is not perfect. It's organic. It just happens.
Biju, I'll not mince any words, but come to point blank straight. Hearing all this, even Gibbs knows she was running a free school actually. But we do have here 2-3 institutions and individuals who are very enthusiastic about teaching children. I mean, making them aware of all this art and all at an early age. Like if you would be comfortable whenever the things ease out, this pandemic things ease out, we would like to conduct a small workshop here.
Certainly, anytime. I would love to do this. I'm not sure.
I'll put Deepika on this. She will get in touch with her students and all.
Yeah, certainly. I think all kids will, you know, they need that. They need that. Yeah.
Because in school and all, after schooling, I mean, some of the other, I've seen children tend to miss, most of them go into some other curricular activities and all, but art and all, not many are interested of late.
True, Sagar. Yes, certainly.
So let me check out when the things ease out, maybe in 2-3 couple of months or 3, because schools are right now not working. So to call 2 schools maybe not be a thing, but to organize a small workshop, taking a venue will be fine.
Yes, certainly. Any other questions? Y'all can just talk about a painting you saw, a doubt you had. I mean, why was it like that? It can be a color, a texture. You know, see, all of us, our brains are all the time asking us questions, and we somehow feel that it's not something we should ask because it doesn't meet any requirements. But I'm hoping that, you know, it could be a movie scene. It could be anything. I mean, I think music really inspires a lot of art. And luckily now Hash has got all the Antakshari, so I'm like singing like crazy. So anything, I mean, it could be a song that kind of reminded you of a color, an experience. I mean, you know, just explore, just stay with that and, you know, try to wonder a little more. I think since all of us want something more than just, I mean, obviously that travel time is not there. I could maybe even guide you all through a process, you know, where you actually express yourself in a way which is you.
What is the video you're working on?
Sorry?
I feel that through what you are saying, it's really two different worldviews. One is based on what are your real talents and gifts and the capacity to wonder and to be thankful, grateful. In that, I see also the dimension of saying that nature is something sacred and that it has to be preserved, and the dignity of the nature, which reflects also the dignity of the person. And opposite to that, how we are conditioned by a system who kills your imagination and creativity, and who makes you so narrow-minded that you just think about short-term. I do not know. It's so which makes you really so much individualistic, so much closed up in your own individual world. So the importance of the education right from the beginning. So it's really a challenge to a whole education system that is
That's
present.
very interesting. You're saying that Francois is from Belgium, which is very close to France, adjacent to France. And actually, there is an entire art movement that was called the Impressionists that started in France. Until the Impressionists came, actually, you had the Renaissance, which was prevalent. So everything had to be perfection. You know, the look, the body, the detailing, every single thing had to be perfection, because that time Christianity was predominant in the country, I mean, in the world. And they believed that man is made in the likeness of God and God was perfect. So everything had to be perfect. And here you have the Impressionists who were poets, they were writers. You have Monet, Manet, Vincent van Gogh was post-impressionist. You find that they said that no, like a doctor knows how to treat a patient and how an engineer knows how to build a machine, artists will show you what you need to look at. And they broke away from that so-called perfection, and they made it like, I think somebody said, imperfect. But that imperfection is not spoiling it. It's actually bringing out nuances. If you look at Impressionists, you all can go and Google it and find some of the Impressionist paintings. You have one artist who actually built a lake, and every day he'd go and sit in front of the lake and paint the lake. The same lilies, the same lake again and again. And that actually, initially they were called like crazy people. They were like, who wants to see this? We want to see perfection. In India, I think even now art is not understood. It's more craft. Something has to be exactly the way I understand. Whereas the Impressionists, 200 years ago, okay, maybe not 200 years ago, 150 years ago, they said, no, we are artists, we have studied art, and we want you to appreciate what is around you the way we as artists are showing you. And that's what Francois is talking about, you know, this awareness of what is around us, whether it is nature or whether it is human nature. It doesn't have to be just trees and plants, it can be human beings. You know, some of the paintings they've done is the absinthe drinker, if I'm not mistaken, it's called that. There's this woman just sitting in a bar, and I mean, it's just sitting there, and there's a painting of that, and that painting sold for, I think, some 90 million. Of course, now I'm sure they're priceless, but you know, this whole concept of understanding what's around us from a creative perspective, from an artist's eye point. Each of us can develop that. Each of us can have that, and that actually increases our experience of our own lives. Thank you, Francois. That's a great question.
Biju?
Yes?
So it's about Van Gogh's Starry Nights, right?
Yes.
Yes. So as I have seen and the painting, it is totally about us previous, this one is relapse and coming back. And used to use dark colors earlier. And the same in between he was with the full colors. He came back to the dark colors. That is because of his condition.
Yes.
And the perspective of the painting, different perspective, many critics are there, other things and all. But you can see that the sky, the blue, and the lines and the yellow, the buildings, it is something. The nature has been destroyed, totally of that sort, because most of his paintings are what he sees, he used to paint. But this was totally different. It was not what he saw.
You saw this in a gallery or something? You saw the painting? You've seen the painting?
Yeah, I've seen the painting a couple of times because most of the paintings, that is one thing about Van Gogh. And later on the movie, it is almost 63,000 pieces of paintings.
Yeah,
you
saw it. Yeah, brilliant it was.
Yeah. That was a great effort. That is one more thing. And about Mona Lisa. Mona Lisa was not supposed to be the greatest painting of all time, whatever it is. It is in the 19th and 20th century. We get to know that Mona Lisa is a famous painting. That is after it was stolen from the museum.
Yeah.
So there was a media outburst to make it famous.
Yes.
And most famous painting of Da Vinci is Last Supper. I think, I don't know how many people agree with that, but that is the fact.
That is also, because there's that woman in the painting, like they believe that Jesus had 12 disciples, which were all men. But Da Vinci, he creates this problem. He creates this, I told you, he's a very, that way he creates a lot of problems. He said there was a woman in it. There's one disciple is a woman.
No,
So it became
lots
very
of things
famous.
because, it is 1500 years after Jesus. Who knows what happened? We don't know. So any painting, it is his own way of thinking. And lantern, as you said, it was brought by the Britishers as an ornamental plant to India 200 years back.
Exactly. And now we are getting killed.
They
with
finished
it.
off our forest. Even today, even Manipur and Nagroli, they are fighting a war against it. And awareness of India, something you told 150 or 200 years back or something, you were speaking about awareness. What awareness you were specifically speaking?
In which context is this? I didn't get that. Awareness of?
Some 150 years back. Yeah, something you were saying. I couldn't get it right. I was just thinking awareness
of
in India about the painting or outlook. What
See,
was the
basically,
context?
India is a 5,000-year-old culture. And we had evolved, like you say, Indus Valley civilization. When the whole world was still doing cave paintings and nomads, India was already a civilization. But somewhere there's not been that continuity is what I was maybe mentioned.
Why
that somewhere our whole system of teaching or the way knowledge is passed down has got choked. There's a there is a temple in Khajuraho near Satna, Uttar Pradesh, which will shock people because it's so sexual. But India had that kind of evolved open mind. They did not say this is good, this is bad.
Now, without any bias here or not hurting any sentiments of any community or religion, it is very simple. It is influx of the invaders into India, that is Bharatavarsha, that created this problem. Earlier, we gave Kama Sutra, Vatsyayana. Khajuraho, it is later on, after 200-300 years of Vatsyayana. Before that, we have got all great epics where everything is depicted. Take Draupadi, she lives with 5 men. We accept that. That is how it is. The whole culture, they painted it so bad. It is influx of other cultures. So that is where we got this problem of that continuity was cut there from the 7th to 8th century.
The Last Supper. So this actually, they are saying is a woman. And this is actually, this shape is a cup. It shows that there was actually a continuity. We believe that Jesus was born and died and that was it. But in Da Vinci Code, they believe that there is a well-hidden secret that there was a woman who was a disciple and there is a continuity of Jesus' lineage. So this creates a big contradiction, and I think Da Vinci wanted that. And can you imagine 500 years later, that is still a discussion point.
Yeah, you might have read Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code, right?
Da Vinci Code, yes.
Yeah, actually,
So,
and
we were actually
Last Supper picture. So he has just painted. There is no place anywhere in the world people sit on one side eating with such a huge table. That itself makes it very artificial. Have you seen any people that is, you have got such a huge table and everybody sitting on one side? No, that can never happen. So there should have been other people here and putting somebody into it.
And you see this, can you see this? Can you see this one thing here? It's like one chair, the back of a chair or something here. Can you see this? Suddenly it is right in the front. What was Da Vinci's, what was he thinking? What did he think of when he did that? We always talk about foreground, middle ground, and background. So if you see the background is very scenic, you're looking out of the windows. So like I said, we have to start looking at the painting from left to right. And if you start in the left, you see the expressions. Somebody has got his hands up. There is a story in this. This is a narrative painting. It's not meant to be a casual scene at somebody's dining table.
No, it
This
is
is a
very
narrative
simple.
painting.
It
Huh?
was something what he thought. It is something, as you said, he had to put something into it. Some confusion.
So yes, he did
Let
that.
me finish this. Yeah.
So if you look at the painting from left to right, you'll actually, there's a story that pans out from the expressions. And then you suddenly have this gap in between, which is actually more enhanced by that pillar in the background. So this is all what you call the visual language. So if you are an artist or in the creative field, you'll have studied that, how to express certain things without saying anything through an image. So this whole narration of the story, you know, it's not a very comfortable, calm supper scene. There is a lot of dynamics happening. There's a lot of politics happening in between. And if you see, the only person who's peaceful is Jesus in the middle. Everybody else is in some dialogue. They have got ideas, they've got opinions. And like you said,
Yeah,
this
even
painting was
disagreement also
painted
when you told,
400, 500 years later. What actually
totally when you come
happened?
to the right. Totally when you come to the right, you can see the disagreement like thing also. So
So
totally
Leonardo
all
da
kind of emotions
Vinci,
have been put
he
there.
understood that it was not easy in Jesus's time. It wasn't like he was a god and everybody accepted him and said, yeah, yeah, wow, wow. No, there was a lot of dynamics. Maybe even the apostles did not agree with him. Maybe they felt he had to do something differently. So all of that comes across in that painting. And that's why that painting is so famous. And
Okay,
it has
Biju, we have one question. We have many more billionaires according to the media. So why does the artist have a problem in India?
Why do artists have a problem? So this is a very good question, and I feel very strongly about it. So we have something like, you know, somebody just now mentioned that we had a culture which was very open-minded. It evolved thousands of years ahead of the rest of the world. But at some point, we had this influence, which was the so-called accepted developed world. And so this whole word modern art was coined. So you have this word called modern art. Now, who decides which is modern art? Modern 5,000 years from modern from 5,000 or modern from 1,500? So this is a dialogue and dilemma that all Indian artists go through. Because when I am an Indian artist and I want to be a modern artist, who am I going to emulate? Artist, yes, of course, I am open-minded. I will accept the global village as, you know, all artists, impressionists, Fauvism, you name it. I will accept all. But do I have to use the same foot ruler that is used by 1,500 years or 5,000 years? So this is a dilemma that Indian artists go through. And at some point, because of the influence of the so-called developed world and their cultural development, our foot ruler has been, I feel, not the right foot ruler to measure Indian art. Because we have cultures which will put any country to shame. We have so much of, you see, indigenous art, we have so many, and all this is influencing our Indian artists. Whereas if you see a French artist or you see a British artist or you see an American artist, Americans actually had no culture. Their culture was Mickey Mouse. I mean, I'm sorry, no offense, but they started with
you don't call it culture. It is actually a mixed people, mixed race, totally, and it's a new word.
But they didn't have they don't have a 5,000-year-old culture, is what I'm saying. But in India,
Americans don't have.
So when we have a 5,000-year-old culture and we have a benchmark which says modern art.
Civilization. So Incas and Mayas are from America. They have got a very old civilization. And one of the most famous civilizations.
But they don't
Other America, what you're talking about is 300 years of
There's two things. Okay, sorry, 1 minute. I have to stop you there. We are talking about two things. One is culture and the other one is art. So somebody asked me the question, why is Indian art so challenged? So I'm trying to explain that. So I'm just trying to say that Indian artists are influenced by indigenous art, which goes back 5,000 years.
Other part of the question is, we have many more billionaires, presumably, who can buy art. So why does the Indian artist not able to sell his or her paintings?
Because I told you about the industry of art. So everything is about being promoted There, believe me, today, if you can go for
Marketing
something
and,
called Chitra Sante, it happens once a year for one day in Kumara Park. You will see at least 1,000 artists' works, which will not be shown in galleries, but they are brilliant art. And believe me, at no, like 1/100th the price, you can buy beautiful art. But the thing is that we have to come with an open mind, and we must be able to explore various avenues. Student artists, there are so many student artists, but they are not being promoted in page 3 in Times of India. You know, so it's really sad. In fact, there are art gallery owners who come to Chitra Sante and they go in the beginning before the public start coming, and they already book the paintings. And they also know which will sell and not sell. And they buy it at rock bottom price from budding artists and keep it in their galleries and sell it for 100 times more. I'm sorry to say, this is our country also. Let's be quite honest about it. So that's why artists find it difficult to sell, because they have to be, like now I told you that Laurie Mirabelli, you know, she just is an industry on her own. She's the factory, she's the manufacturer, she is the marketing head, and she sells. And she's not trained as an artist. I think we artists who are trained as artists are a little challenged, you know, because we have to do the right thing. We are too academic. You know, you need to get out there and fight dog kind of situation. Then artists are selling. It's not that artists are not selling, but yeah, it's a very, very challenging, and you have to sacrifice a lot. If you see an Indian artist selling today, you know that that person has sacrificed a lot, probably even his family life, his or her. And believe me, it's really sad, but there are, I mean, it's not, situation is not so bad. If you go to Delhi or Bombay, you'll see a very colorful art industry and artists. And I mean, it's fantastic. I travel and I make sure I go and see at least 2-3 art galleries. And hopefully one day I will also exhibit in Bombay and Delhi. Those are actually the hubs. Bangalore is just starting. It is much better than it was 20 years ago.
Okay, so you're saying that opportunity is improving, and that's a good sign. So since we are already at 7:30, I want to ask if anybody else has a question. Gora?
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, Radhika here.
Yes.
Hi, Radhika.
How about you having a course or something for all these lot of kids? Like in many houses, you know, you have seen all these kids surrounding you when you start your paintings. So why don't you start a course or something, weekends or something, like even people like us can join?
Actually, all this I'm telling you is after 12 years of teaching at the professional level. I started off teaching kids. When my kids were small, I didn't want to leave them and go for a job. And you know, the corporate world is quite competitive and very stressful. So I used to take classes from home. This was when my kids were small. And then I, of course, went to college level because that was like fixed timings. And also whatever I'm talking is from academic background of teaching, but it's very difficult to teach children. I mean, you know, it's a very dicey situation, and I need a lot of energy to keep up with them, because children are actually, like I told you, the artists, and we should not in any way constrain them and tell them, you do this, you do that. So if I'm teaching 10 children, my brain has to work for 10 different things. I cannot tell all of them, okay, we are all drawing a tree today. So that's why slowly I stopped teaching children, though I love spending time with children on my workshops. I do workshops. So I don't mind, you get them together. I can do a nice
maybe
workshop
some online classes or something like that.
That's why I said, no, that energy. Now my kids are grown up. My kids are professionals.
Okay. We'll park that question. Gora, you had a question.
One quick question to you, Biju. Looking at the lecture you have given us is fantastic. Can you suggest a book that can let us interpret the famous paintings that, for example, you have given as a sample? So a book that can interpret all the famous paintings, the name of a book?
Yes, so this is a great question, Gora. When I was studying, I couldn't afford these books. And they say, no, that once you throw the wish into the universe conspires to get it for you. Much later when I was working I got all of these books. So one of the books you can pick up is called History of Art, and you'll get it dirt cheap now because people are not buying books. You know, most of these big bookstores, you know, maybe they have online also. You can get it really cheap. At my time, when I was in college, it was very expensive. And I luckily got it from one man posthumously. He died and his wife wanted to get rid of it. So I remember I bought it in installments because I couldn't afford to buy all of them, you know, together. But those books are amazing. The print quality, the history, the culture, the social, political situations, all of that. Actually, the development of mankind has happened through art. I'm sorry to say. I'm not saying that we don't need bridges and roads and, you know, industry. I'm not saying, but if you see the evolution of the mind, of the human mind, has happened more when there has been art development there. So, History of Art is the book you need to get. It's a fat whopping book. I can
History
actually
of
show
Art
you
by
the book.
who?
I have all
Who are
of
the
those
authors?
books. I don't lend it to anyone because it's like my, what do you call?
No. If you
My
can suggest
amanat.
the name of the author, or is it,
No. It's called History of Art. There are books
okay.
written by different art historians. There will be probably
Okay,
a whole list of them.
okay, folks. In the interest of time, I'm going to put a hard stop to this. Now, I put Biju's email ID on the chat. If you have further questions or interest, please send a mail to her. Or most of you are part of the hash groups, which we have conversation every day. You can send her a message every day as well.
Please do. Feel free to share ideas, and I love to learn from whoever I'm teaching. So please share.
Okay, so on behalf of
Thank you
everybody,
so much.
I'd like to thank Biju for spending her time with us
Thank you,
today.
Biju.
And
Biju.
we look forward to more
Thank
of
you.
your work on the singing side.
And Abnash and Molly, thank you so much for this opportunity. I can keep talking for the next 2 hours, so you better shut me off. But
That's what
still,
we are doing.
thank you for this opportunity a lot. I
All
had
right,
a great time. Thank you.
So this, your talk will be available on YouTube possibly tomorrow. So the link can be shared with people who did not see the talk. Okay, thanks a lot, everybody. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
And we are having these sessions every Thursday. Next week will be something else. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye.